Manual Flush Kit with Auto Shutoff. One of our most popular standard system upgrades is the Universal Manual Flush Kit with Auto Shutoff. This kit is available in configurations for either 90 gallons per day or 180 gallons per day. The main advantages of this upgrade are automating water production and extending the life of your filters. This kit contains the installation operation manual, a manual flush assembly with auto shutoff valve, a mechanical float valve, flow restrictor, an extra two-way valve, hardness test strips, and extra tubing. Installation of manual flush kit with auto shutoff. Turn off water to the system by closing the tap water feed supply valve. Disconnect yellow and blue tubings from the existing RO membrane housing. Note, the red or green tubing, depending on model, has a pre-installed flow restrictor. Please remove and retain this flow restrictor in case it is needed in the future. Connect the short yellow piece of tubing on the flush valve kit assembly to the yellow port on the membrane housing, either using or not using the stem elbow provided. Attach the original yellow drain line to the Y connector at the other end of the flush valve kit. This Y connector will already have yellow and red tubes attached to it. Connect the short blue piece of tubing on the flush valve kit assembly to the blue port on the membrane housing, either using or not using the stem elbow provided. Attach the original blue tubing line to the remaining open port on the auto shutoff valve. The ball valve provided in the kit can be located at a convenient place on the black incoming tap water feed line. Cut the black tubing in two and reconnect the two cut ends with the two-way ball valve. Place the yellow drain line and the blue product line temporarily into a drain. Open the tap water feed supply valve. Ensure that the pressure does not exceed 80 pounds per square inch. Check the system to ensure that all fittings are secure and leak-free before leaving the system unattended. Upon startup of DI systems, air may become trapped in the filter housings. To clear the air, rotate the unit so that the air can escape out the top. Turn off water to the system by closing the tap water feed supply valve. Finish the installation by permanently securing the yellow drain tubing to the drain line. This can be done using an optional drain saddle. Install the included float valve onto a collection reservoir. More on this later. Attach the blue product line to the float valve. More on this later. Installing the float valve. Drill a 7/16 hole near the top of your reservoir. Leave enough space to install an overflow protection drain line if wanted or needed. Remove the compression nut from the float valve threaded stem. Be careful not to lose the two small plastic collars that are inside the compression nut. Slide the compression nut onto the blue 1/4-inch tubing coming from the water system. Slide the smaller of the two plastic collars onto the blue tubing, oriented so that the smaller end of the collar is towards the compression nut. Then slide the larger of the plastic collars onto the blue tubing so that the larger end is oriented towards the compression nut. Slide the two plastic collars so that their wider ends come together. Allow 1/2 inch of the blue tubing to remain exposed past the plastic collars. Remove the retaining nut, but leave the rubber gasket in place. Insert the threaded stem and rubber washer into the hole from the inside and hand tighten the retaining nut. Additionally, you can use a 5/8 inch wrench to give the compression nut 1/8 of a turn. This will securely affix the float to the reservoir tank wall. Push the blue tubing with the plastic collars and compression nut into the end of the threaded stem and hand tighten the compression nut. Note, the float valve needs to be oriented so that the float can move upwards. Installing the overflow protection drain. SpectraPure highly recommends installing an overflow protection drain as an extra precaution to prevent overfilling. The overflow protection drain is created by drilling a hole and installing a bulkhead fitting slightly above the top float valve. You will need a 3/8" bulkhead fitting and enough 3/8" tubing to reach your drain. Be careful not to bend or crimp the tubing, as unrestricted flow is essential to proper performance of an overflow protection drain. Drill a hole in the reservoir tank, a little bit above the top float valve. The drill bit size should be equal to the size of the bulkhead fitting shaft. Carefully tighten the nut to be solidly snug. Be careful not to over-tighten, as this will break the fitting. Insert one end of the overflow protection drain tubing into the bulkhead fitting on the reservoir tank. Secure the other end of the overflow protection drain tubing to the drain or sink so that it doesn't get moved out of position. Open the tap water feed supply valve. Ensure that the pressure does not exceed 80 pounds per square inch. Extra two-way valve. An additional two-way ball valve is also included in the upgrade kit. This two-way valve can be installed either in front of the system, on the tap water feed going to the system input, or behind the system, on the final DI output going to the float valve in the reservoir. SpectraPure recommends installing a two-way valve at the tap water feed so that the incoming water to the system can be completely shut off as needed. An additional two-way ball valve can also be used after the filters on the final DI output line to allow the system to be purged of accumulated impurities via the manual flush without risk of contaminating the product water in the reservoir tank.